All right, welcome back, everyone, to the .NET Bachelor in Paradise. Oh, no, that's the wrong podcast.
No, wrong show.
You got the two #1 Bachelor fans right here in the House of Redmond House. I'm James Montemagno, and this is the Xamarin Community Stand-Up, and I'll let everyone else introduce their wonderful selves.
Yes, I'm Maddie Legere, and I'm actually in Redmond for once, which is super exciting. I get to go behind the curtain of the .NET Community Stand-Ups.
That's right. Finally, I'm not alone.
It's great.
Yeah.
Great being here.
And we're not alone because we have wonderful people on. We have David as always, and then also lovely people. David, why don't you introduce yourself? Then we'll go to John and John.
Sure. David Ortnow, Principal Program Manager for Xamarin, mobile SDKs, mobile dev tools, anything you need for mobile development. And let's go to John Douglas.
Hey, I'm John Douglas, Senior Program Manager over Android tooling for mobile dev tools. So Android experiences and the likes.
And I'm John Peppers. I'm an engineer on Xamarin Android, and I'm kind of in the weeds trying to fix things. So that's what I do.
It's a great description.
Yeah, and Peppers, our first reoccurring guest on the Xamarin.net Community Stand-Up.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty awesome. Now, if you're brand new to the .NET Community Stand-Up, we are streaming everywhere in the world. If you're on the YouTubes, if you're on the Twitches, if you're on the Mixers, if you're on the Facebooks, if you're on the Snap Who's and the Face What's and the Tweet Who's, that's where we're at. We're everywhere.
Tweet Who's, yeah.
The Tweet Who's. Now, we are the mobile team, so of course, both David and I have brand new flip phones. We're very excited about it.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Boom. I'll also be picking up a light phone later. I'm very excited about it. You can listen to Next Merge Conflict to learn all about my new passion for flip phones in life. Doesn't have to be a flip phone. It could just be a non-flip phone. It could be a feature phone. My other phone is a feature phone.
Right.
And then my other phone is a smartphone.
It just looks so out of place.
Or does it look amazing? That's a good question for all of us here to think about. Oh, I'm super excited.
Makes the pocket better.
Yeah, it very light. It makes me feel like I don't need to reach for my phone at all because there's nothing to do on it. I'm very excited. I just announced today we're doing .NET Conf is right around the corner. Obviously, as we all know, we have 3 days of crazy streams. Maddie has a session. John has a pepper. David has a session.
John has a pepper.
Pepper and Pepper. Do you have a pepper? Do you have a stuffed pepper?
We're growing peppers in the backyard in our garden.
Oh my goodness!
So I do have some.
So meta.
Very meta.
So good.
I like that. I'm also doing, I'm not speaking, but I am going to be hosting the .NET Conf Redmond local viewing party and bonus lightning sessions. I did it last year with Matt Sokup, and then we're doing it again, but we're doing it on campus in the Redmond Reactor. So if you're in the Redmond, Seattle area, come hang out all day. Tons of great giveaways. Last year we gave away like a Surface Go and a bunch of other stuff. So lots of good giveaways. All right. Yeah. Well, if this is your first .NET Community Stand-Up, what's great is you have all these wonderful people from the Xamarin team here. And, of course, we are here to thank our amazing community and give you some great updates. So we have people coming in to the YouTubes, to the Twitches from all over the world. We're reading those. So if you have questions along the way, feel free to do that. But, yeah, all sorts of amazing people from Norway, from Mexico. Shout out where you're from. Venezuela in the house. India in the house. So love seeing people from all over the globe. We do these .NET Community Stand-Ups twice a week. On Tuesdays or ASP.NET every Tuesday. And then on Thursdays, we do Xamarin, Languages and Runtime, Visual Studio, and Windows Desktop. So no matter what you're into, there's a .NET Community Stand-Up for you. They're always available on demand on the YouTubes. So make sure you check that out. Subscribe to the .NET Foundation YouTube or, of course, the Xamarin Developers YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
And we do a bunch of cool things on the .NET Community Stand-Up. We talk about all the amazing blog posts and pull requests that the community has been up to. And then we have a special topic. And today we're talking Android 10, Android app bundles, Android performance with the Johns in the house.
With a very avid Android user, apparently.
Now, my other feature phone is an Android feature phone, which is kind of fun to talk about. So all things Android one day. This one is not. This is KaiOS. Fun. Holland in the house, Colombia in the house, India also in the house again, Macedonia in the house, Italy in the house, Ecuador, Germany, Netherlands in the house, France in the house, Holland in the house, everybody in the house. I love seeing the entire beautiful Xamarin community here. All right, Maddie, take us away. We're going to switch over. Bloop to you.
All right. So if you would like to follow along with all the amazing blogs we're going to show today, there's a link. The URList.com. Xamarin Standu.
Yeah, I forgot the P. I forgot the
Yeah.
P in the stand.
It's good. Xamarin Standu
Standu.
9/2019.
Yes.
So I believe James has posted it in various chats.
Yes.
But you can follow along with all the links right here. It's super, super easy peasy. But I'm going to skip to the middle of this list first because I want to highlight another challenge. So I don't know. This trend started, I think, in February with Luis and his Xamarin February Love Heart Friends Challenge, where everyone wrote a blog post about why they loved Xamarin or tips and tricks with Xamarin and all that stuff for the month of February. It's fantastic. And then another one happened with UIs that I believe Stephen Thewison did. And then now we're doing Xamarin best practices in October. Very spooky Halloween. So Claudio has put this
our
up.
best practices spooky.
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 We're going to wrap it up on the 31st. It's going to be a great Halloween party. I have no idea if that's going to happen.
All right.
Yeah, but it's going to be awesome. So originally, I think he just came out with this like a week and a half ago. So if you haven't seen it yet, you still have plenty of time to sign up. There's a repo. You just sign up, and then you're going to do a PR with James's example here with like, you know, the blog and the date you're going to do it and the abstract for it. And then you're going to write the blog, and then you're going to post the blog, and then everyone's going to talk about it, and it'll be on the next community stand-up maybe.
Yeah, November. Yeah. Because it'd be
right,
through
October, November.
He was going to do
Only September.
Yeah, Claudia was doing September. It was originally September. You can see it even says September there because he forgot to update that.
Oh.
But he changed it to October because he posted it like the last week of September, so not enough time for people to sign up. But,
Right.
I'm doing one on
Design time data.
Yeah, design time data, and also how I'm going to hack Xamarin Forms and rewrite the IL. So
Yeah, if you saw James' tweet the other day, it's
it
pretty
didn't
fancy.
It didn't also didn't make any sense to anybody, I don't think, except for me and Frank.
right.
Yeah.
Inside jokes hacking Xamarin
When
Forms.
when you write, well, you know. Anyways.
Says the mobile developer with a flip phone. Anyways,
Mhm.
on to the next one. So we have some Netherlands representation in the blogs this week. This is by Baz, and it's about App Center. So really easy. I think it's like mostly clicking things, creating a backend for your app, and then hooking it into your Xamarin Forms app. So using App Center. The nice thing is he goes through and explains a bunch of different, how the data services work. There's diagrams, which are always helpful, authentication, and then actually configuring it, the step-by-step guide to configure it in App Center and Azure, and then just how easy it is to literally plug it in to your Xamarin app right there. So super like easy to follow example if you're one of those people who does mostly front-end stuff and avoids the data stuff like me. This was a very easy way to kind of click through and figure out what I was doing there, which is good. All right, next, Syncfusion launched a blog.
Ooh.
And they are doing a bunch of stuff. I think there's been like 2 or 3 a week, and it's awesome. This one is about consuming ASP.NET Core Web APIs, which I say to James yesterday, I hate saying that phrase because it's way too long. But ASP.NET Core Web APIs in Xamarin apps.
Or you could abbreviate to Aqua.
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 Oh, I love that. We should tell them. Next,
I'm pretty
next ASP.NET community stand-up.
John Galloway, we got it. We got something for you.
Aqua.
Aqua.
Actually, I think it's Anqua, but that's okay.
Whoa, yeah, Anqua.
Anchor?
No, that's a.
Anywho.
Everybody also on the Teams call, not amused.
No, not at all. Both Johns are disappointed. David he's come to expect it.
You put 2 people inside the Redmond campus, this is what you get.
That's it.
I need more friends here on campus, please. Also, Syncfusion has great books, ebooks.
They do, yeah.
And big announcements this fall. I can't talk about it, but the team has reached out to me. I'm very excited about some stuff happening.
That's very exciting.
Yeah.
Cool. Yes, there's also there were like 5 blogs and I decided to only pick one. This was one that I don't think any other of the blogs this month were similar to. So that was why I picked this one. But there are a bunch. Definitely recommend. Again, just your standard, your code snippets, setting up your view model and all that, and then your examples, and you get to use the Syncfusion, some of their controls, so SF list view, all that great stuff. So easy to follow around by a product manager at Syncfusion, so that's cool. PMs represent, love it.
All day.
All day. All right, next one. I know Blazor's a hot topic, so I had to include this one by Robin. It's about code sharing between Blazor, which is C# for the web, if you haven't heard of it, on the Blazor hype train, and Xamarin. So that's cool. And it was a weather app that Robin built for both Xamarin Forms and for the web, using this thing of projects in Visual Studio here. So your Xamarin's down at the bottom, and then your standard, your business logic, and your models, and then your Blazor, and how it all hooks in, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
.NET Core 3.
Well, something pretty similar to that I built on the stream, which was taking it and I also used there's a brand new tooling in VS 16.3, which you can point a .NET Standard library at a Swagger definition file, and it'll automatically create all of your models and all of your HTTP things. I did this at one of the VS Lives.
Ooh.
It's pretty cool. So like you take the Blazor and it has a web API backend, and you just like shove it, and then it's like, here's all your shared code.
Nice.
It's kind of cool.
You do love Swagger.
Swag.
Anyways.
Again, everyone. David amused.
David laughed.
David amused. All right, got it.
There we go.
I'm amused at all the crickets, you know? It's just
Yep.
Well, we don't have a
I
live
feel
studio
just let
audience.
that go, even though I do think it's funny. It's almost funnier to not
Right.
laugh.
Just to let the jokes kind of softly plop onto the
Mhm.
carpet. Yeah. Well, if we had a live audience, we would. Yeah, Jacob's right. We need some laugh tracks
Oh,
in here.
I'll put it on the stream deck.
Yeah,
next
I think
month.
so.
Next
That'll be
month.
good.
Ha ha ha! Like Friends laugh
Yeah.
track, and you're like watch it again, you're like, oh, there are not people there actually laughing. But anyways,
Wow. Also, sidebar, I don't know if you know, Bill, one of the engineering managers in Xamarin, has a new soundboard where he can bleep out his words as he talks.
oh, it's a good idea.
So we need one of those too,
Good idea.
just in case it gets off the rails. Anyways, Zam Girl, Charlene, a regular here on the community stand-up. This one's about the Visual State Manager. So she has this very cool example where she makes a planner down at the bottom, which is a really nice little like, oh, you click on the date and that's the one that's the biggest. But it's about using like the Visual State Manager and like a couple different tips and tricks with it, making custom states, using the states that already exist, changing your shading on your entries, all that stuff. So all good things. It's a pretty in-depth one. And of course, she references the docs, which is great. Love my docs. And all the source code for it. So if you're new to the Visual State Manager, this is a good entry point, I'd say. Okay. Custom fonts.
Mhm.
We have a lot of font stuff going on. We have font icons. We have custom fonts. This is a cool looking custom font. This is basically a one size fits all answer to how fonts work in Xamarin, because it's very confusing sometimes. So first of all, you got your pre-installed fonts, and then all your font files that you can add if you want to, and then how to define them and how to use them, and some ads about your dog licking your paws, and then that's it. It's pretty much all it is.
Nice.
So pretty simple.
David has a comment.
Yeah.
I do have a comment because you kind of almost called my baby ugly. So this is not fonts, and cross-platform fonts are not a unique problem to Xamarin. This is, it goes beyond Xamarin.
Yeah.
However, James Clancy's done some wonderful work to make cross-platform fonts super easy in Xamarin Forms, especially. So we're working on getting that merged, and when that's done, the experience ought to be, no promises, but the experience ought to be, you drag and drop your font files into your library project, and it's done. You just start using it. Generates the resource dictionary code you need, and you're off to the races.
I like
That's
that.
all you have to do. You
That
don't have
sounds
to worry about
amazing.
anything. Because we know what needs to be done.
Yeah.
We can do it for you.
Oh, did you write like an MS build task? Is it like a task that like will search and like automatically generate the stuff for you?
So that's the part that's not done yet.
Okay.
But we have a plan on how to do it. But all the rest of it, in terms of how it works within Xamarin Forms, has been plumbed by James Clancy.
Ah, that's a cool idea. Yeah, I saw him do a live stream on him talking about it in general. So
Yeah, he
Mor-
live streamed all of his development on it, actually. So
yeah, Morton in the chat's asking about images.
Yeah.
images is something that we're also doing a lot of research on, and looking at how we can possibly unify all of that. I think we have some ideas. Currently, I don't think that we've developed a full spec on it. One of the program managers that was working on it had to go back to university, whatever that's about.
Ugh,
Lame.
school.
Degrees.
Well, I will also say like
So-
images are super hard, right? Because If you look at images, there's still ways of doing it. You could just put an embedded resource that just works
Right.
cross-platform, whatever. But it's not going to give you your scaling correctly, and
Right.
we all know Android is all over the place. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard to understand all the scales.
yeah,
Don't worry. It's on the radar. On the radar. So cool. Well, looks like XamLabs will be updating this blog soon, hopefully, with even less steps. Okay, next one. I had to do this because I know David is really excited about this. So Gerald works for the team now, so it isn't technically a community blog. I'm sorry.
yeah,
But everyone needs to know you can now put HTML in your labels. Instead of using formatted strings, you just write HTML. That's it. That's it. That's it.
nice,
Done.
beautiful.
Yeah, scroll down a little bit more because the C data is what I love.
Ooh.
There you go.
Can you
Right?
zoom in on that.
Yeah. Look at that.
And
Beautiful.
there's an even simpler way to do it. I believe Stefan showed us that you don't even need to specify label.text because that is the content type or the content property of label. So we can reduce that even further to, I mean, you know how much I love typing so much XAML. Let's type as little as possible. So
Next
yeah,
thing?
it's very cool. The one thing is that you know, you're still going to want formatted strings if you're doing bindings and gestures and things like that. But if you're consuming strings from an API or something and they are styled with HTML, perfect for that. That's where this really helps.
That's cool. Yeah, sometimes like when you're reading like a blog or just like data off a file that's just like embedded in stuff, and I've written so much code to strip HTML out of things, like, oh, just like here's a paragraph, just like strip it all out, and it's terrible code that you don't want to write, where it's just like, oh, it's already there, just do it. Next thing, David, Markdown. Let's get that Markdown in there.
Ooh, I love
So-
that.
Yeah, that
It's
would be
hard.
hot. I mean,
It's not
do the
supported
native
natively.
labels support that?
No.
Can you do that on Android and iOS?
No,
No.
you need a library.
All right.
Normally, what they do, what the libraries do is they'll take the Markdown, convert it to HTML, and then HTML label it. But then you still
Okay.
need a Markdown parser, right? So we could create our own Markdown parser built in. Essentials?
That's right. Yeah.
There's also
Aw.
MarkDig. That's a great open source one for .NET.
MarkDig is good. I've used that before.
Oh, I love this.
But what if it was all in one file? All right, people in the chat, let me know what you want to do with Markdown.
Yeah.
We're listening.
David, can we use HTML and button.txt?
No.
Okay. That's a question in the chat.
No.
So,
Yep.
good
But
to know.
Not at this time.
File an issue if you want it.
But maybe soon.
Maybe soon. Markdown Essentials. There you go. That's it. Customer validation.
Yeah, Jacob says go.
Job is done.
Job is done.
All
Job
right.
done.
On to the next one. Oh, so this one is originally written in German. So Edge did its best to translate it.
Nice.
It's by Sebastian. But I know last time we talked about 64-bit support for your Mac and your iOS apps. You also got to do that for Android. So this is a nice blog that just takes you through it. Lots of clicking. Visual Studio for Windows. Love it. Very little typing. Almost no typing, which is great. That's how I love my blogs. So just go in, select the architectures you want, make sure it works, make sure it builds. Set your linker to none so you can use that XAML hot reload goodness in your debug builds.
I mean, in release, you need to set that.
Well, yeah,
But yeah.
release. You're right. You're right. Great. Nick's .NET Travels. Dave, this is all for you. MVVM navigation with Xamarin Forms Shell. So this one's kind of like a thought experiment. I wouldn't say it's actually like an example I would consume and use in an app, but it was basically just like how to build a really good, solid navigation system in like the vanilla shell template. The nice thing about this blog, the reason I really liked it is because it goes into a bit of history about like different aspects of MVVM and like what the need for dependency injection is, and just like doing the basics of all that and then building those out in shell. And your event-based navigation, all that great stuff. So it's pretty lengthy. If you have a few minutes, it took me probably 5 minutes to read through, but I didn't follow along with it. I just read it. But definitely helpful if you're interested in this or shell or how that works with MVVM and how that kind of rolls into everything else. All right, more fonts. Font image source.
Yeah.
Markup extension, which is
Yes.
the best part about this.
Yes.
So this is Andrew. Andrew's awesome. And font image source, if you're unfamiliar, is when you just use icons as a font.
Yep.
Pretty simple, but great if you don't want to find images for mail icon or whatever in your tabs or something. So originally you had to do this thing where you do image button dot source, font image source, all that. But using the power of XAML and markup extensions, you can just do this.
Mm-hmm.
So much less tags. Just open your little squigglies, put your little squigglies inside the squigglies, and you're great. You're off to the races.
I think that was Andrew's PR. Like I think
Was it really?
I think he actually implemented it. But yeah. And I just used it. I just put it in Hanselman Forms. I struggle because I was originally using dynamic resources, and you can't use this stuff with dynamic resources to specify the name of each file for iOS, Android.
Oh, okay.
But then I realized they didn't need to be dynamic resources. They could have just been static resources because I'm never changing them. So I was like,
Ayo.
duh, James. Anyway, so it totally works. It's great. I put that in the Hanselman.forms.
Love it. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
And the 4.2 blog has more info on all this stuff, so very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that was his PR. Huh.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Okay. Rendy Zamboy, GPS tracking with Prism and Shiny. So this is part of a 2-part / probably more parts in the future, using Prism and Shiny and Xamarin Forms and stuff with that. And this one in particular dives into GPS tracking. So a couple months ago, Rendy had done like a Uber clone. So he doesn't do that again here, but he's big on the GPS stuff and he's kind of very good at it. So if you're interested in GPS or Shiny, which is Alan Ritchie's baby, or Prism, any of that, this is a great way to look. Lots of code in here. Lots of copy pasta and also all the full source.
Yeah, it's cool because Shiny really, what Shiny does really well is that it really focuses on background tasks.
Yeah.
So he kind of has a lot of scaffolding where Essentials didn't really want to do that much to get in there just yet. So I use this actually for like background update jobs. So he uses like the work manager in Android, which is cool. And so I have like the Hanselman Forms app. Alan did the PR into the repo to do, or no, did he do the PR? Maybe he fixed up my code, but we walk through and I have it so like every hour it'll update like the RSS feed and stuff, as long as you're like plugged in and like you have Wi-Fi or whatever.
Yeah.
It took like 20 minutes. It was great. So it does a bunch of stuff like that, which is cool. And you don't have to use Prism or anything. You just use vanilla if you want, but it kind of goes together. So
yeah, I
see the chat has, the Twitch chat has gone into a blaze of flurry on JavaScript now. So great.
Just jam HTML on all of our XAML pages. Oh,
sometimes you got to. What else you got?
What else I got? I got one more.
Oh, yeah, we have released Ameren Essentials 1.3. Super exciting. We also now have an official release notes on the documentation. So when you're browsing documentation, it's there. It's right beside Xamarin Forms, all the things. And then you can tap on that one, see latest release.
This one?
Boop.
Boop.
And then you can see what we did. So we launched 1.3, which is a smaller feature release, but a lot of good contributions. We added try open async to the launcher, which is nice. And also Xamarin Forms had integrated a bunch of thread helpers. So we re-optimized ours. We actually already had all the code. It was just all internal. So we redid some stuff. So now whether you're using Essentials or ours, it'll be there so no matter what you're using. And the Essentials team is working now closer than ever with the Forms team to make sure that we either ship features sim at the same time or just in Essentials. There's also added watchOS and tvOS and Tizen support. I know there are little tiny notes there.
I know.
So now it's all there. Boom.
Ayo.
Ayo. And yeah, then there's a bunch of stuff below, and there's some great. And then we also highlight community contributions. There's only 2 because it's a smaller release. It's mostly just watchOS and tvOS, but some nice things there. We link over. Apparently, I don't know how to use Markdown, so that's good.
I think you did your best.
I did my best. I did my best.
I think it looks like you just missed a parenthesis.
Just missed a parenthesis. Yeah. What you gonna do? That's it. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. It's very cool.
Very exciting.
Yep.
All right, that's my bloggy blogs.
Yep. David, did you have anything? Did you have any PRs or anything, or no?
I have some PRs, and I'll just go through them real quick because I want to get to the Johns.
Let's do it.
So that we can get to our really cool content. So, all right, I'm sharing my screen.
All right,
Let me know when you got it.
Got it. You're good.
Cool. So a couple of things to give shout outs for real quick. This is a PR for multi-window support in UWP, which has been a long time coming. It's based on some work that one of our field engineers and their team did down in Brazil. So this kind of paves the way also for what you might see coming in the future for iPad OS, aka iOS 13. as well as, Catalyst, the ability to start taking our iOS apps to the Mac OS desktop. At that point, you're going to want multi-window support. So this kind of sets a foundation for it. Something just I want to make everybody aware of that is in there, and it took a lot of effort to get it in, so it's worth celebrating. Cool. This is one that I absolutely will use. How many times have you had a scroll view and you're like, stop scrolling? I just want to lock the scroll at some point in time for a reason. Well, now you can set that orientation to neither, and it'll lock it. So that's pretty cool. And that's from Axel user. I don't know that I've seen a PR from Alexei before. So that's awesome. Thank you. And it's a cool bow tie picture there. Look at that. Our contributors are getting fancy.
I like that.
Clear button mode. More love from Andre Natescu. So this is your entries when you want to be able to control when and where and how to handle that clear button, what the mode is. So many good things. As I'm combing through the PRs to see what to talk about, I'm like, oh, wow, man, the framework is really maturing and getting great. It's pretty awesome. So Joe Mankey, who we've highlighted in the past for his maps work, is continuing. So he must have a really sweet maps project he's working on. Marker clicked and info window clicked are now added. And then polylines and polygons. Look at this. Cool. So now you can start drawing things on your maps. Come on, in a cross-platform manner. So that's really nice. Let's see here. This is from, is it Konstantin, right? Konstantin Semenenko, who put this together. And I tweeted about this yesterday because it's really interesting. Touch gesture recognizer. So you can start getting a lot of raw touch gesture information with this PR. It's not merged yet, but you can even go down into the event args, and then there's a touch point. It's in here. If you go search the code, go look at the files changed, you can get the XY position, you can get the start and the end and all that wonderful stuff. And I wanted to call this one out, even though it's not something that is merged yet, but from Conrad Mueller, WPF with .NET Core App 3. So .NET Core 3, project style SDKs. I know that Gerald Versluis worked with Conrad to get this working. So, kind of just a look into the future of things that may be coming down the road for us as we kind of follow along with the whole .NET ecosystem and grow. Of course, it's Xcode 11 season and iOS 13. So we have a ton of wonderful community contributions as the iOS team is hard at work doing bindings for all the different frameworks. We have that as well. AV Kit was contributed, Event Kit, Home Kit. Let's see here, Intense UI, Video Toolbox, Notification Center. Lots of wonderful community contributions from several people, and that's not bindings work is not easy work, as many on the stream here can attest. So that's awesome. Let's see what else real quick. Scene form. So if you're doing any AR stuff with the Google libraries, scene form has been updated to 1.11, and that's also nice if you're using the Azure.
Spatial anchors.
Thank you. Spatial anchors.
They're so cool.
You guys are awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah. So if you're doing that stuff, you got the latest bits now. And then just a couple of more. CPU architecture. I don't know why this one's here. Oh, this is Essentials.
Yeah.
This is Essentials. So James, you know what this is.
Yeah, this is someone opened one, and yeah, I forget what his name is. What is his name? Hover over that. Pictos. I only know him as Pictos. Pedro. Yeah. So Pedro Jesus, he did this. We did an API review inside of this PR. Morton was asking how we do API reviews. It's all in the open. And yeah, originally it was just here's a single architecture, but actually Android can have multiple fallback architectures too. So it's going to be a string array of multiple architectures, so you can see if you're on x86 or ARM or whatever you're on. So it's just a small, nice little addition. People want little properties, and we're open to that. So boom.
Boom.
Nice.
Love that.
Awesome. Another one from Konstantin Semenenko. If you want to be able to get a scrolled event off your list view, because you want to be able to get the data for where it's scrolling and how it's scrolling, you want to add a nice parallax or something like that, boom, here it is. Beautiful stuff. I know that's one I've been wanting for a very long time. And then this is a bug fix from Gianpaolo Gaba. And this is if you've ever used layout compression and you've noticed that performance may have gone the wrong direction. In some situations, that was possible based on the nesting and things like that. Well, turns out we've solved one of those issues here, or Gianpaolo solved the issue. And so as you can see here that the measurements with compression after the fix, you're all the way under a second. So you're at 745 milliseconds, which is a nice gain over what you would have gotten without compression, and a massive gain over what you might have gotten if you fell into this hole and had a bad result. So there you go. That's my lightning recap of just some of the great PRs that we've had. As a matter of fact, the forms repository alone had like 99 PRs in the past month, and 44% of those came from the community. So absolutely fantastic. We love that. It helps us to all grow as an open source community. So there you go. I'm done. Let's talk to the Johns.
Let's talk to the Johns.
The Johns.
It's like a dating game or something.
I know, right?
We've got some Inception going.
It's like speed dating with blogs and PRs, and then you speed date
There you go.
the Johns.
What are we talking about, Johns?
All right, so we're going to kick it off with recapping the Android Performance Challenge. So
More challenges.
let's share a screen really quick.
Yeah, so if people don't know, you want to tell them a little bit about, I guess you're going to do it. One of them. Shut up, James. Let John do it.
Yeah, so about 2-3 weeks ago, we put this challenge out with regards to Android performance and app size. One of the big things that we've been doing over the last few releases is really improving performance, improving size, improving startup speed, you name it, whatever it is, we're probably working on it. We released a few features, of course. One which was startup tracing. You can actually see what startup tracing is all about, which improves your startup performance quite a bit, actually. And we're going to go through some of the results to see what some of your apps out there in the wild did with regards to some of these features. But this wasn't it, right? We had a lot of features that we also were adding. So we had, Jonathan Peppers, of course, wrote all these awesome blogs, and he'll talk about them after a little bit of this recap. But we did ship, the D8 Dexter, the R8 Shrinker, App 2, and a lot of other different tools that you can use, which are improving the Android experience in general. So again, if you aren't familiar with this challenge, if you were to go to basically our GitHub repository, send a quick issue, you would get a sticker and potentially a monkey. So we're going to be recapping all this and the likes, sending out swag. So just be a little patient with us while we get all that done. So how you participate, of course, you just go to this repository. So I'm just going to jump to this repository. But we kind of have all these different instructions with regards to, bump up your diagnostics for your MS build output, just so that we can kind of ensure that everything is going right with regards to your builds. Use our new features. These are all in the property screens. And then really just kind of even opt into some experimental type features or features that aren't really documented or listed. So we did have portable PDB, which is your debug symbols. We have reference assemblies, which is with regards to producing reference assemblies on your shared project. So, some samples, of course, we're going to jump into those, but let's just jump through some of the issues. So we had 46 submissions, which is pretty awesome. And let's see what we have here. So let's jump into a couple. So this one was from, looks like Ivan Labrador. It looks like they had cold build time changes. Wow, that's really significant. So
you
about
zoom in for us really quick too on your screen.
Yeah, zoom that.
Absolutely. How about that?
Perfect. Awesome.
So it looks like they had about 1 minute and 20 seconds, and after they did some of the changes with regards to this instructions, 33 seconds. Quite the improvement there, right? Incremental, it looks like it saved about a second or so for them. Let's look at startup performance. So startup performance, this looks a little scary, about 10 seconds here. But what did startup tracing save them? about 4 seconds. So let's look a little bit more. So download size as well, a little bit increased here. So that's just kind of a taste. Let's take a couple look at a few more. Let's do the second one here.
Yeah, and I guess even
so
on
this
these,
is-
John, like it's also hard to validate that everybody tested exactly the same. So we're just kind of hoping that it's the same type of thing. So I noticed that some were a little bit where things went a little bit down instead of up, or like that doesn't make any sense. But also like the debug versus release, like those could all impact these sort of things, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so these instructions hopefully capture that, but we do have build logs for some of these. Actually, majority of people did submit the build logs so that we're able to see, was this the right conditions? Was it debug? Was it release? Those type of things. So we'll be, of course, we have a huge backlog of over 46 submissions, but we'll be digging into those and understanding a little bit more. So here's one. It took about 54 seconds, and after their changes, they saved about 5 seconds. That's pretty good. So incremental change, it looks like this one actually regressed. So we probably want to look into why that was and added 4 seconds here. But let's look at the start performance. Start performance looks like about 2 seconds or so. And it looks like they saved about, 1 second or so. So they had a 40% improvement. Really cool, right?
Yeah.
And then let's look at their app size. So app size looks like about 25 megs, and they dropped about 10. So, another 37% bonus there. So, this is just a taste of all the submissions, but this is kind of the flavor of what we've been seeing with regards to some of these. So, there's just a few. I'll jump one more. Let's just find maybe, let's do the Pokédex app.
Ooh,
Sure
love
what
it.
that is. This is done by Louis Beltran. So it looks like they saved quite a bit of time, almost 2 minutes. Shaved about 40 seconds off of their build times. So really nice there. On their incremental, it looks like they saved about, it looks like half a second or so, which is pretty good. Could be better, of course. Let's look at their startup. So it looks like their startup was also another second or so. App size, so it looks like they did shave a little bit by using a code shrinker. So they were able to save 0.5 megabytes. So, any gain is a good gain, right?
Yeah. That's
Cool.
cool. Yeah, it's good to
and,
see. Like, it's kind of cool to see that. And then also, I know there's a bunch of actual, like the full applications, right? So it's not just file new. It's kind of like everything kind of inside there.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing to notice too is we have a lot more features coming down the pipeline that will improve these even further. So like startup tracing, we are working on custom profiles right now. So we do ship a default profile. The custom profile is going to be able to read your app and say, here is everything that you are doing at startup. Let's even optimize further. So we do have some cool things coming down the pipeline as well. But I did want to go through that, just give a little taste. Feel free to go to that link as well. It's a Android Performance and App Size Challenge under John Douglas on GitHub. But I also wanted to kick off to some of the upcoming things and things that we've released recently within our previews. So we do have Android 10. Let's talk about Android 10 for a minute. Android 10 was released earlier this week. Of course, we ditched the name Android Q, went to 10. I don't know the feelings on that one, but I'm a little bitter. That's just me. But I like the desserts. So what a cool couple things that we have been adding. So startup tracing, we've been doing a lot of improvements on startup tracing. One of the big things that we initially had was we had a dependency on the Android NDK for a lot of the low-level bit code. So we actually decided, well, we don't actually need this. Let's actually remove this dependency. So in a future release, I believe that's preview 3 of 16.3 or 8.3, you can now use startup tracing without having the NDK installed. So it's a big lift. You don't have to worry about that dependency at all. Some other cool things that we did as well, probably the most significant one as we're talking about Android 10, is that we did provide binding support for the final APIs as of preview 2. So that should already be out there. You should be able to use that. And if you have any trouble with any of the APIs, anything like that, let us know. Open an issue on GitHub so that we can fix it as soon as possible if there is anything. But again, that means we have full support for Android Q, also known as Android 10. So feel free to get started with it today using the preview versions.
Very cool. Yeah,
I'm
and
gonna.
we had a question
Okay.
too earlier about just like how we ship kind of that same day, in quotes, support, right? Because like, we obviously don't control when Apple or Google go GA, and we also
Right.
have a timeline, right? So you said it's in preview, but like, of course, everything's open source, right? So can you kind of talk about how that sort of
Mhm.
release cycle goes, I guess?
Sure. So the release cycle mostly goes like this. We usually have the same day support in the next version. So the preview version currently has it. It's the same day. It's technically there. We have had preview support since, I believe, 16.3 preview 1. So we had the initial APIs. But in preview 2, we then bumped it to the final APIs, which is basically what Google ships and says, we're not going to make any changes. This is final. You can do whatever you want with these. And so what that means is that the next version that it will become so-called stable is when 16.3 releases to the general public. But however, if you wanted to get a build, of course, you can go to github.com/Xamarin-Android. You can go to the releases tab, and you can grab any release there. We do have, of course, a plethora of different types of releases, such as stable releases, preview releases, master releases. So if it really depends on what features you really want to add, but to be safe, it'd be the preview versions, which would include all these Android 10 APIs.
Very cool. Yeah, and I also I love that because I didn't really know where they all looked, and then Peppers wrote the blog post on Boots, his CI tool, which is really great. And what was great about that is he kind of like links to where you can find all of them and how to do it. So like even if you're on a CI server and you need a specific build, you can grab that specific build that we're shipping and then put it into your CI server. So if you need to build against 10 on your CI server on App Center, Azure Dev Ops, or anything like that, you can just do that, which is pretty cool.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found a lot of people were wanting that. They would be like, I want to use this new thing. And, they have to build their app, right?
Yeah.
On a CI system. So it was a good idea.
And I thank you so much because I actually am using it in all my apps already. So
Awesome.
Yeah, let's kick it over to Peppers and let him talk about some of the app bundles and the likes.
Yeah, let me share my screen. So let's talk about
perfect.
what John's challenge. What did you actually change, right, to make those things faster? Right, that would be some, helpful information. So I wrote a blog post on this kind of before the challenge started, and I also did a talk at Xamarin Dev Summit about this, and you might go check that out. I kind of go into more detail there. I'll probably just do an overview of what's going on here. Our general prescription of like what your settings should be are in the templates. And if you think about it, templates, how often do you create your project? Your project might last for multiple years. So after a little while, the settings that we gave you, a year ago might be a little stale. So
yeah, my Hanselman Forms app is it was a Xamarin Forms 1.0 project, so it's about 5.5 years old now. So it's fun to look at the new settings.
So this is the main reason that you would want to go back and see what you have set up. We can sometimes make things the default, but unfortunately, a lot of the times it could break projects, and so sometimes we can't do that. So I'll just kind of go through here. Some of the obvious ones. The biggest thing to understand is like what should you set for a debug build, and what should you set for a release build. Debug builds, you just want them to build fast, and so your developer loop is just really fast turnaround. You don't get slowed down like waiting for things. And the release build, it can take longer, but you want your app small. You want it to start up fast, those kind of things. So the obvious thing in debug mode, you want to have fast deployment enabled. And that's just a checkbox. And back in the day, I'm thinking like many years ago, I don't know, there used to be some problems with this setting and people would turn it off. But I can say now that I've been using it for several releases, it should be good to go now. And if you hit an issue like that, send us an issue on GitHub. Another thing to note is that multi-decks, since Visual Studio 2019-16.2, if your app used to require multi-decks, it may not need it anymore. And so if you can turn that off, that's going to save you some build time for sure. The build system has to do a bit of work to see like what parts in your app need to be there when it starts, and that obviously takes some time for it to run. So then release mode, some things that you can try in release mode is linking, right? So you would only turn on the linker in a release build, like unless you have a specific reason, which you probably don't. Same goes with the code shrinker. Both of these settings, what they do is they make your APK smaller by removing like unused code. The linker removes unused C# code, and the code shrinker removes like unused Java code. And so you don't need to do that during a debug build. It's just all it's going to do is slow you down to do that. Same goes with AOT. AOT is for release builds. That's startup tracing or just regular AOT. You don't really need to do that in a debug build. So let's scroll down. Some other new settings. Android, they have been shipping a lot of new tooling around builds. Android as a platform, not just Xamarin, has had concerns over build performance for a long time. And so Google has recognized that, and they've created a lot of new tooling, such as apt2, which is one tool, and they've created D8 and R8. So these are settings you can just turn on, and what it will do is use a different command line tool from Google than the default one that was there before. And so you can see some build performance just by checking these boxes and changing these drop downs. So I'll come back to app bundles. Yeah, here's another good one. If you're a Xamarin Forms application, there is a setting that you can put in your net standard project called produce reference assembly. And what this does is, so let's say you change some XAML, right? And then you hit build. Well, without this setting, the Android and iOS projects will have to rebuild as well. And what this setting does is it creates an assembly that is like the public API surface of your code, right? And if you're changing XAML, that should be unchanged. So most XAML changes will be much faster to build if you enable this setting. So I would definitely try that out if you have a Xamarin Forms project.
I'm gonna go through all these tomorrow on my live stream on my Handsome in Forms and make sure that I'm doing it right. I'm gonna try these all.
Yeah.
Pepper's told me to do it, so.
And they're all good. Some of the things I saw looking through logs of the challenge so far is they put this setting here in the wrong project. It goes in the net standard one. So hopefully I'll be digging into those logs some more, and maybe I'll find something that someone has a bug someone's found, but we'll have to see.
Nice.
Goes there. So let's talk about app bundles. Google also has been looking about improving APK downloads in Google Play, like how the size of your APK. The way things traditionally were is your APK file contains stuff for all the devices. Like if you have multiple languages, multiple CPU architectures, multiple screen sizes, all of that was in the same APK, and everybody downloads it and installs it from Google Play. So Google wanted to fix that, and the way they did that is they have a new feature called app bundles. And what this does is instead of sending an APK file to Google Play, you send an AAB file, which stands for Android App Bundle. And that is basically split up into multiple APKs. So if I'm on my Pixel 2 XL or whatever, Pixel 2 device, and I download an app from Google Play, I get only these APKs that are specific to my device. So I'd get the base APK, I'd get English, I'd get my screen size, I'd get my CPU, and it can save up to 50% off the download size. So we have support for this in Xamarin Android. I would use the latest preview, the 16.3. Just by adding Android package format AAB. Maybe I'll zoom in a little more. We are still working on the publishing workflows for this in Visual Studio. Hopefully that should be coming out sometime soon. But if you're an early adopter and you really want to try this out, there's also some further instructions on our release notes on how you can produce an app bundle and upload that to Google Play. I think that's all I got.
Nice, yeah, and I have a video coming out. John, the other John, Douglas, and I did a video on app bundles. I think it's coming out. Oh gosh, I gotta look on my planner board. Please hold task.offices.com, doing this thing, looking at the other thing, clicking a million buttons. My laptop's gonna die. Next week. So we're gonna. He walks through all of it, which is kind of cool, of actually like going through and doing it. And yeah, can you talk about like the size difference, like how an app bundle like maybe would impact your CI service or distribution, like, and also like, is it basically the new standard, like, and how, you know?
Yeah, on Google Play today, if you upload an APK, they have a lot of like annoying nagging pop-ups that say, hey, you should use app bundles. So it's kind of they're strongly pushing people. I don't see them requiring app bundles immediately, but probably one day they will. So that's why we're trying to get ahead of the curve and make sure that we have support for it. But if I could, let's talk, like if you look in an APK, it's just a zip file. So if you're ever curious what's going on in there, open that up in like 7-zip or your favorite zip utility. And inside there's going to be like native libraries, like stuff like Mono, so that your app can run. And those are per CPU architecture files. And so Xamarin apps may have better savings than like Java apps would, because we've got these native binaries that are going to be split up. So that's another thing like pushing us to get this thing working.
Or like Skia, so. Right? Skia as well has a big native library, right?
Right. Yeah. Skia. Anything where you see an SO file, that's what an SO file is native like C or C++ code that's in your app.
What does it stand for? I love abbreviations.
Oh, SO is shared object.
Shared object.
That's a Unix thing. So like if you built a C library on Linux, it would be a SO file as well.
Nice. So yeah, that makes sense. So really when people are thinking like, oh, app sizes, you got like a runtime in there, you got a bunch of stuff. Well, like with app bundles, it's just really going to kind of take care of that, especially now because you need to ship 64-bit support for your app, right?
Yeah, and that could double well, maybe not double, but like add 25% to your APK size to add that. So an app bundle, it's kind of like you might as well just support all the architectures because it doesn't affect your download size at all.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Cool. So people can kind of test it out. And then you said we're shipping different support in 16.3 versus what's in there now today?
16.3 just has some fixes. And I think we're planning, maybe John Douglas can fill me in, when we'll have some stuff in the UI. There's a publishing dialog in Visual Studio.
Yeah, so publishing on the VS side will be coming in a 16.4 preview or 8.4 preview. So we're just adding the arguments and making sure everything goes smoothly with our archiving workflows, and it'll be in there.
Nice. And then do you still have to sign and zip align stuff, or like if I'm in Azure Dev Ops, right? Like there's a task that says like sign and zip align or whatever. I guess that's my question to you.
The way I do it is we have MS build properties to define your key store file. And so I just run sign Android package and it produces an APK. And I could set up a different one that produces an AAB
Got it.
file. And it does use APK signer is what APK is used. And so it can't use that because it's not an APK, but it uses jar signer, which is the old one from back in history before APK signer
Wow.
is around. Yeah,
Nice.
it's different. It's weird.
Gotcha. Okay. So we'll probably also need to take a look at some Azure Dev Ops stuff and help get some new tasks maybe out in there to make it seamless. I mean, I guess you could run MS build scripts, but you know me, I like a GUI UI. I like a GUI.
Yeah.
And we've also been working with the team to get proper app bundle support in DevOps. So you should hopefully have just a task there eventually. But yeah, you can do it through our tasks, or you can do it through the official Android app bundle ones.
Nice. Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, I think we're about at the hour or so. Thank you both for coming on, talk about all the new stuff, and make sure we'll put links to all that stuff in the show notes on the YouTubes, and you can find the community links and whatnot there. So thanks everyone for hanging out on the streams. Got a lot of good comments. Hopefully we got some of them. If not, you can always email all of us anytime or ping us. We don't have like one email.
No, we don't.
But you can just find us on the Twitter spheres. I'm at James Montemagno. What are you?
At Maddie Legere 1.
Number 1. What about everyone on the stream?
At David Ortnow.
At _ John Douglas.
Gotta have that underscore.
_ John Douglas.
At Jonathan Peppers.
Perfect. Awesome. All right, cool. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Don't forget .NET Comp's coming up. Don't forget to go over that. There's tons of local events everywhere. Go to .NET Comp. .NET maybe? I don't know. That's probably where it's at. Where's it at? .NET Comp. Just Google that. It is .NETConf.net. So .NET
Dot spelled out.
DOT net comp
.com.
.net. And there's also
.net.
hundreds of local events all around the world. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks both John and Jonathan, or the Peppers, the Douglas and the Peppers.
You say Peppers. There's too many Johns.
Too many Johns.
It's a Monty Python sketch in the Android.
That's true. That's true. Thanks everyone for hanging out. And we'll see you in about a month or so back with another Xamarin Community Stand-Up. But don't forget .NET Community Stand-Ups every single week. Until then, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're at, on the Twitters, on the YouTubes. Just click on the buttons, do the subscribes. Cheers. Bye.